Hey y'all, how y'all doing? Happy Tuesday. Come on in here. Come on in the room and holler at me. Y'all know how we do this. Half of the country, y'all should be deep in here tonight because half of the country should be on lockdown because of this weather, right? It's been a little bit crazy. I don't know anybody who hasn't really been affected by it. But anyway, come on in here, Saka. I know you're here. Say hi to me so I know. And we're going to get this party started. Y'all know what I got to do. I got to do my share. Please listen. I thought about that. When I'm sharing, how about y'all share? Like when I'm tagging, y'all should tag. So that'd be like good. That way I don't have to remind you at the end and you won't say, you know what, somebody probably could use this. I know we're still in Men's Mental Health Month, but any topics I have, can be for both men and women. So women don't feel some kind of way about being on here. So definitely go ahead and share so people know that we live and the conversation has started. It's always like, it's funny because I always tell people it's all good that you can, I always tell people you can always come and watch the conversation afterwards. But I do get it. Like sometimes your favorite show, you want to catch it while it's on because it's like, you kind of waiting for that, it's going to be good and you just like want to be involved and be able to talk about it right when it's happening. So I want the same thing for you guys. So if you go ahead and make sure that you are sharing it at the beginning, that way everybody can get on and don't have to see it afterwards. So all right. I think that I shared it. I want to be sure. But I think I'm here. I think we're here. We're good to go. All right. And like I said, if you're here, let me know so I can say hi to you. But we're continuing with our conversation this month, this whole month. Anybody who's just joining me, this was a month where I definitely wanted to dedicate it to the fellas because they felt like this was just a woman's only show, and I don't believe anything I'm talking about, which is mental health issues or mental health topics, is just a woman thing. Hey, Leah girl, how are you? Hey, Auntie Elaine. Hi, Maurice. So, I absolutely don't believe that they're only women topics, but that's what we're here to do this month, particularly, is to hit some discussions straightforward. Like these are things that are going to be targeted directly at man. Hey, Auntie Elaine. So, this is making sure that the conversation is inclusive for everyone. So I said, okay, well, I don't know if you guys caught Ernest on Thursday. He was my second guest. We had an amazing conversation. Hey, Jason. We had an amazing conversation about is it soft for men to talk about their past wounds or issues or experiences? And it was a really good kind of segue to kind of talk about a lot of the thoughts that come up when we start talking about these things. So I was really excited to have the conversation. I think it went really well, and I'm excited just to have these conversations where it's not just me, and then I'm talking with men, and not just men, but men in mental health space already, where a lot of time we don't feel represented in that space. We also don't feel like that, that's our issue, is a them thing, and so I really feel like we got a good way into some of this stuff. Thursday, I have another person on. His name is Justin. We're going to bust up some ground with another good topic, so don't miss Thursday. But, to just keeping the conversation going today, I don't know if you saw my topic, but just in case, here we go. Are you just here so you don't get fined. Anybody who is used to me and who has heard me speak has probably heard me say this a bunch of times, and I probably have had a whole live about it once before. But I, again, want to talk about this. We're here to break the stigma of mental health. Someone said something earlier to me that I thought was so important, and Ernest touched on this on Thursday. A lot of times people hear mental health issues or topics and they assume that it means mental illness. And because of this, they tune out because they're like, that's not my issue. This is not my type of thing. But I just want to reiterate that mental health is all of us, just like we all have physical health, issues or topics. Like the reality is that I might not be physically hurting right now, but what do? You go to the doctor annually to get an annual checkup to make sure that everything's functioning correctly and everything's good, and that they can possibly do preventive medicines to make sure that you don't break down where you is out of control. I feel the same way is for therapy or mental health, where you go and you really can go in a preventive way, but even not just in a preventive way, just to start talking about things that you have no idea is considered. Mental health is everything. It touches every part of your life. And so it was a great question that was posed, and I wanted to bring it up again because I hope people are not tuning out because they're like, that's not my type of issue. This is not something I suffer with. Like, I'm not dealing with bipolar or whatever. And they feel like because of that, this is something that is not touching them. And I really want to be very clear that we all literally, it's just how you think, your mentality, your perception, how you handle things. And that touches your relationships. It touches your career. It touches your business. It touches your, family situation. It literally touches, and even just your personal happiness, your personal joy. It touches all of it. So it's not something that you want to, really put in the box and say, oh, well, I'm not on the verge of a mental breakdown, so this is not for me. Well, let's be clear. After 2020, after Corona, after Black Lives Matter, after all the things that hit you, I know so many people are still even outside of Corona dealing with death and different things. There's so much going on. You want to make sure that you are having a solid foundation so these type of things, when they do come, you have a little bit more support. You have a little bit better of a chance of not, hitting another level. So I'm excited about this topic. So let's get on with it. Are you just here so you don't get fined? I know y'all know that quote. Gentlemen, especially, that quote is definitely from Marshawn Lynch. And he's an NFL player. And I think it was the Super Bowl. I can't remember, but there was something that happened where he was getting fined because he didn't want to talk at these events, right? And, they were like, well, you have to talk. And he was like, well, you can't make me talk. And he was like, yeah, they like, well, yeah, we can, that's in your contract. So the way that he did is that he would go to these press conferences and he would literally just go. And every time somebody would ask him a question, he would just say, I'm just here so I don't get fined. I'm just here so I don't get fined. And that's what he would do, because if he didn't go, he would just literally get fined. Oh, hey, Martise. And so I appreciate you coming on, bro. And so I use that analogy a lot because I feel like a lot of us are just here so we don't get fined. Like, we are just here. Like, you ask people and they just like, man, I'm just taking it one day at a time, or man, I'm just trying to do this thing called life, or man, I'm just adulting, or whatever they say. But it becomes a thing where that's the norm. And it's the accepted norm for way more people than you know. You might feel like one or two people that say that, but I'm telling you, this is so many more people than they will admit that this happens to. And if people were honest, we've all had a moment where we were just not feeling it and was like, man, I'm just here. Like, I've said it. Like, that's my line when I'm not feeling something, man. I'm just here so I don't get fined. Hey, Mama Pat. And so I know I've had moments. What happens when your life is lived in a way where that's how you are all the time. What happens? Hey, Kelly, what happens? And that's what I want to talk about. Like I said, anybody who's been on here, you've heard me talk about it somewhat, but it gets to a point now, where we need to really address this with men. And I know I'm not a man, but I feel like I can touch on some of the issues, and that's what I'm trying to do. Martise, you brought up a good one. You said it is what it is. I know I heard that one before. Oh my God, I hear it all the time. How everything do, man? Dog, it is what it is. And it's like, we accept that because in the moment, most people, when people ask them how they're doing, they really don't really expect a real answer, or they're not prepared to really answer or listen to what they might say. And so most times when somebody say that, we realize that that's probably a lot more to unpack. And if you really care, you might dig into it a little bit, man, what's going on? But the average person doesn't. They just take it as an answer, as a response, and keep it moving. And so I got the time today, y'all. I have some time. So we're going to unpack this a little bit. What does it mean? What does that mean to you when that's every day for you? Like when somebody asks you how you doing, why is it never, man, I'm doing good, I'm doing great, things are great, I'm blessed? It's never that. I'll even go a further step. Sometimes it's not even, man, so horrible today, man, I'm not, not even negative. I'm not even talking about the people who always think about the negative of it too. Like some people want to put that in the same category, and it's not. I'm talking about the middle of the ground folks, the ones that literally are, I don't want to use the word nonchalant, but they are tattering the fence. They don't see a path forward. So they literally sitting here. Like if somebody asks them to choose a side, they kind of be like, well, I don't know. It could be this, it could be that. But they literally just kind of there. Jason, you said something good. You said perception is a big key. Absolutely, right? Because when somebody asks you that question, it's how you perceive, that moment. And if in your life in that moment, things are just not bad or not good, you just like, oh, I'm just here. But it's bigger than that. I subscribe that I think it is something that is probably, and this is going to sound really extreme when I say this, I think it's probably one of the bigger issues that are out here that nobody talks about, right? I will not disqualify somebody that's going through a hard time in life and they're keeping their head above the water. I'm not going to make that person feel bad, nor will I disqualify it. I understand as sometimes that's how life is. I know sometimes literally just to wake up in the morning is if you're struggling and you're fighting for that, that's an amazing thing. And I'm going to give you kudos every day for it. I'm going to tell you to use gratitude. I'm going to understand that, hey, for you, if that's all you have in that moment, I get it. I understand it and get it. So I will never minimize that. But I will say this. There's a pandemic of people who I think are passionless. And there's a pandemic of people who literally don't have, they say, they just say, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Legitimately don't have anything that they stand on. Literally, it's just, whatever, either here or there. Don't have an opinion of you. They literally are just kind of middle of the road. And some people think that it's normal. I think it's an issue. I really do. Let's see. Artiste, I love that too. You said, I think it's a great point. We can do better as the axer to genuinely want to know how somebody's day is, have genuine concern. Listen, and that's the thing. Because I think people leave it at that, really, when you start that conversation. And y'all know, listen, I've been guilty of it before, too. I've been guilty when somebody start talking, like when I ask them how they doing, and we in pass, and I just say it, and they stop saying, well, actually, this was going on. And if I'm busy, or if I was really going somewhere, and I really wasn't in the mood for a conversation, it could catch me off guard. And I'm like, oh, my God, I really didn't mean, how were they doing? And it's not that I didn't necessarily care about how that person was doing mentally, but in the grand scheme of things, if I was going somewhere or if I was in a rush or who knows, I could have been distracted, whatever it could have been. In that moment, I probably I wasn't as in tune as I should have been. The one good thing about me is I'm trying to be respectful enough where if somebody starts to release it, I'm going to stay there and engage. That's the one thing I can say, but I believe we've all done it, right? The difference is it's one thing to maybe one day forget to do it. It's another thing to be your norm. I think it's a bigger thing. And even with relationships, how often do you really know the person that you talk to every day? Let's break it down. How many people go to work and sit next to somebody for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year, and don't really even know that person's middle name? Don't know how people, if that person is suffering from a debilitating disease. I'm not saying stuff that's super, super personal, but just basic stuff that if you cared, that you would know. How many people have family in the house that they don't even know what their dreams are? Don't know what their fears are? I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad. I'm talking about the type of relationships that we have. And you oftentimes doesn't really know what people are going through around you. And that's how we are. Unfortunately, we have a lot of surface relationships and there's no depth to them, right? And some people are so used to that, they think that's normal, right? So then they don't really go further with that. But then, beyond that, you can't even go surface. You can't go deeper in a relationship when you don't even go deep with yourself. That's what I really want to talk about. We're talking about, are you here just so you don't get fined? How often is it that I can't go or trust you to go deeper with any of my information because I don't really even know who I am, and I'm so middle of the road? I dare to even call those people emotionally numb. I dare to call those people that really don't have their identity intact. That's what I want to say. And I was trying not to say it this early in the conversation, but with the 20-minute mark, we might as well hit it. And before I go into that, because that identity piece, this is what this is all about. This really, I told y'all, I think it's a pandemic. We talking about, y'all talking about COVID. I'm talking about the pandemic where people are suffering from identity issues. And I know when you think identity issues, y'all probably thinking homosexual, heterosexual. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm not talking about sexuality at all. I'm talking about knowing who you are, knowing why you're here, knowing the legacy that you want to leave. Because honestly, if you are feeling like I'm just here so I don't get fined, or I'm just living, I'm existing, I'm just adulting, I'm here to pay bills and to take care of the household, and that's all you feel like you're here for, if that's literally what you think, you have an identity issue going on. And that's what the bigger issue is, right? Let me get some of these comments. JC, you said a lot of it has to do with self-love. You have to love yourself, and then after you realize you love yourself, you can strive for better things. Absolutely. And that's really a part of identity, right? If you don't know who you are, you can't even love who you are, right? This love piece, that's a real thing. And a lot of people don't hit that thing on the head. But I can't even get all the way to love yet when people don't even have a basic concept of who they are or who they want to be. You remember those back in the day when you were like 5, 6 years old? Who you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to be when you grow up? What dreams do you have? What desires do you have? What's your passion? What are the things you like to do? Those were normal questions. And as a kid, you can answer those. But then sometimes something happens around that, different things happen in life. And I think a lot of people lose a lot of that when they're in their teenage years and when they get to their early adult years and life starts to happen. And understandably so, right? I mean, life happened to me. Y'all hear my story about how I feel like the dreamer in me legitimately died when I got pregnant with my son. And I'm not blaming my son at all. I'm telling you about my truth. My truth was in that moment, I told myself I got to man up. I gotta, do this thing called life. I didn't have time to be a victim. I didn't have time to cry about things. I gotta take care of him. I gotta get a job, and literally everything else, all my dreams, that's for kids. We in the big girl world right now, and I literally, now that I'm back to myself, I realized that was the day I let the dreamer in me die. Right? And it's important to you to recognize those days. Let me give some more comments. Pat Patricia said, you've been there before. Pat, I think we all have been there, right? That's the thing. The reality is understanding not being there or not being there. Another thing you said, just surviving day to day. And that's what I think a lot happens too, is the idea that we literally just trying to survive, just literally trying to get out of bed every day. I get it. And that's usually tied to possibly depression and or anxiety and other plethora of issues that might be tied to past traumas. Totally understandable. I'm not having an issue with any of that. I just want us to at least talk about this, because I think the difference with being stuck is you're stuck, but if you don't know you're stuck, you'll never try to get unstuck, right? Some people think they're doing good and it's just that, and they're okay with just being there. It's one thing when you like, okay, my boat has crashed. I'm in the water. I'm treading water. And I finally get over here and I'm finally standing afloat and I'm good. I'm not here, not going underwater, and I'm not taking in water anymore. It's good because you're trying to survive in that moment. But what happens when you get out of the water, you get onto dry land, and you finally dry it out and you're breathing? If you sit there and you don't try to get help to get off the island, and you just sit here and you don't do anything more, you're not going to get the desired effect. And I think that's where a lot of people are stuck. They're stuck in that moment right after surviving, and they don't know where to go because somewhere they got lost in the whole scheme of things. And us trying to help, this is me trying to help us find what that path was, but first figuring out, like, starting to realize that we need to figure out what that identity is so we can know where we're going. So that's good, Pat. Martise, you said, I legitimately spent the last couple of years of my life to make sure that things I speak on and I embark on, I qualify for. I definitely understand what you mean. That's good. I like that. You said, I spent the last couple of years of my life trying to make sure that the things I speak on and I embark on, I qualify on for. That's some good stuff. I should have known you a wordsmith anyway, sir. But I mean, that's good, because I think a lot of people have no idea. They legitimately just want to go after things. I think there's two things we got to be aware of. The big part is the having no identity, or not knowing where you're going, or having no direction. That's what we're talking about here today. But then there's other two extremes as well we don't want to go to. You have the person that's the dreamer, that they do dream, but they only dream and they don't apply any practicality to it, or they have no plan. And a lot of times they get discouraged, or they just keep having the dreams that actually don't materialize into anything because they don't have any execution or plan, right? That's one extreme, right? And I love that you just said that, Martise. You said making sure the things that you speak on and embark on, you qualify for. So basically putting a plan in motion so that you can go ahead and execute the same way that you're talking, right? Or then you have the other person that's the extreme, which used to be me, I was super practical and I lost the dream, right? I lost the dreamer completely. I was overly practical because I did not like what a lack of provision looked like. I didn't like what it felt like to not have. I didn't like the feeling of being rejected. I didn't like when I needed something, I didn't have it. I didn't like that. So because of that, I was ultra practical and I did not have any dream in me. And so I became a worker bee and I became performance driven. Okay, I work these hours. I get in good with the boss. I go ahead and do these things so that I can get, little, merit increase every year. I have the money. Okay, I want to move. Let me pay off my debt. Okay, I want to eventually get a house. Let me do that. Okay, I want to travel this. Let me make sure. I did the practical steps, all of the steps. I figured out what the steps were, and I took all the steps to get me where I needed to go. So I was very practical. which sounds great, right? Because I thought I was doing an amazing job, and being practical is amazing. However, I lost all the dreamer. And that was so serious. I didn't realize it was serious because really I was only as good as what was in front of me. And I think the best word I can put on there is I put a little box around me that was so small that I can only move in small increments because I limited myself. I got to a point where I could only believe that I can do what I could see. I felt like I could only do what I could reach at. And nothing else was in my grasp. Nothing else was I couldn't even allow my mind to go further because I really thought that, that stuff is for them. I'll give you examples. Cars. I would only buy a 10-year-old used car that I could go pay cash for. Whatever was in my account at the time. If I had an amount, I'd be willing to spend this in cash, go put this up for a car. I'm not financing it. Cars are depreciable. They're not assets. I will not drive anything that is just to be pretty. That's not what it's for. I need to be logical. That's what millionaires do. They do this. And I had a whole plan about how to be fiscally responsible. And which was very good. And it took me a long way. And I still preach that. You absolutely should do that. But what I did not take into, I did that with, hold on, I'll talk about that. With the home buying process, same thing. I want this, and that. And I was very strict about it. And I made a plan and I did it. But one thing that sounds great. The problem came at when someone says, hey, what's your dream home? I'm like, dream home? What are you even talking about? And I felt triggered by it. And I was like, what is that about me that feels really triggered? And I think I got really mad because I think I started to really, I got to a point where I believe that anything above whatever, okay, if y'all know anything about buying homes, like they'll tell you when you're trying to get, or either renting something, they'll tell you whatever your housing budget should be 28 to 32% of what your total net income. Well, okay, so it's 28 of your net, I believe, and it's 32 of your gross. Don't quote me on that. I actually know it. I'm just not in that rim right now. But that should be your housing. And anything over that means you're living above your means, and anything below that means you're living below your means. And so for me, I was super strict about that. I didn't want to look at any houses that were above that, right? At all, on no level. And I even got to a point where I was like, it was a game for me. Like, oh, okay, let's say you go to a store to buy a shirt, and the shirt is 30 bucks. And it goes on sale for 25. That wouldn't be good enough for me. I made a game. I want to see how low the shirt can go. So I might hold out on the shirt until it's $15, even though I really wanted it, and it was 25. And to be honest, I could afford it at 30. But it was this point where I did this game with myself where I was just trying to see how low I can go. Okay, I know I'm losing some of you here, but I need you to understand why. I'm talking about identity. Identity. How often is it that we don't really believe that we can have the things we want in life? Due to our circumstances, due to our experiences. Let's be honest. A lot of us have grew up without a silver spoon in our mouth, right? Not everybody, but a lot of us have. A lot of us grew up rough. A lot of us were surviving. A lot of us didn't have a whole lot of money. Some of us know what hand-me-downs are. Some of us know what it's like to have to sleep in the bed with one or two of your siblings. Some of us know what it's like to sleep on the floor or on the couch. Heck, some of us know what it's like to be homeless. We have been there, and it's a real thing. And so if you have ever experienced any of those things, it's very hard for you to switch your mentality from surviving to thriving. It might sound, I know it rhymes, and I know that probably make y'all cringy, guys. I know, but get past that thought. I'm going somewhere with this. How often is it that we cannot really see or we're not able to shed the things that we had on us for survival and not realize what we need to go to start thriving, right? Because it's two different mentalities that you need for both periods of your life, right? When I was grinding and trying to establish and building my foundation, there was a grind. There was a surviving nature. There were things I had to do. There was a toughness I had to have in order to get through that tough season. And I had to be on it. And I had to do what I had to do. And it wasn't a whole lot of room to cry. And it wasn't a whole lot of, or if it was, I didn't see it was. So I had to do what I needed to do. So for me, those things I built was necessary for me in that season. But what happens when you move out of surviving into thriving and you don't even realize that you still have on the same stuff, the heavy stuff? Like, for example, it's snowing real bad here in Chicago. When you go out there, we need to have what, long johns on. You need to have on a long sleeve shirt on. You need to have on, your pants. Then if you got snow pants on, and you need a big coat. And if you might have a jacket under there, you need a hat and gloves. And you do all that to go out there in that snow. And because it's going to be cold, you want to make sure that you are put together, right? Well, if you get done with the snow and come back inside, and you still have all that stuff on, you're going to be uncomfortable. You're going to be slower. You're not going to be able to do what you need to do. You're going to get hot. You're going to be agitated. You're not going to be able to function as well because you're not dressed appropriate for the change that you have. Y'all know me and my analogy. You already know how I go. So that's what I mean. Think of it like that. Your season in your life has started to shift, and you're still using that same armor from the last season, and it's heavy. And it's too much. You're not able to move as swift. You're not able to think as clearly because you got all the stuff on from the last season that you didn't shed off. You didn't shed it. You didn't shed it. Y'all hear about butterflies turning from caterpillars, right? Same idea. Or snakes shedding a skin. Same idea. After a while, when that old skin is on or these old things are on, you need to change and go to the next level, next stage of your life. You got to shed some stuff. And a lot of times you don't even know that you're moving, or you don't recognize it because you're so used to surviving. Have y'all ever seen those people that's just fighting all the time for every little thing they have? And you want to say to them, like, tap them on the shoulder, like, hey, you don't really have to fight. Like, we're giving this to you, or you've earned this. This is yours. You don't have to fight anymore. Just accept it, or accept the help, or you don't have to prove yourself. It's because that person's mentality has not shifted out of survival mode. Okay. And I think it's so important to realize that, and that's part of identity. It's so necessary to realize that shift and to adjust. There's always time to, to recognize where you're at and adjust as necessary. Patricia, you said other people are not believing your dreams, so you begin to believe that you can't. That's a good thing too. That's something I've heard as well. Like when you are a dreamer and you do share your dreams with people and they don't believe in it. And so parts of you start to think that maybe you are overshooting, or that maybe that you don't, that you shouldn't have shot that high. And I know that's a real thing. But I do believe once you get to be seated in your own identity, and not just recognize what it is, but really get seated in your own identity, it's going to be hard for somebody to shift you off of your own dreams. Because once you know whose you are, once you know why you're here, once you are stable and seated, not just know, but actually see and believe it yourself, it's nothing somebody else is going to tell you. And that's why we have to start to do the inner work so that we are able to be able to sit in this thing that we know. When you're in your purpose, when you're in your passion, when you're passionate about something, when you're doing what you know you're supposed to do, it's not much anybody can say that can knock you off your rocker, because you know why, and you're seated in it. It's like you dig in a little bit. Like I'm dug in here. You're gonna have to do a lot to try to knock me from believing I'm where I'm supposed to be in life. You see what I'm saying? It's a difference between knowing and the other thing, but they're seated in it. So yeah, that's why identity is so important. Jason says it starts with believing in yourself and believing you can do it. And that's listen, that's honestly where it starts. It's all in the mind. And that's why I say mental health, don't get thrown off by that. It just means your mindset. It really means on how you think, because How you think affects your money. How you think it affects your business, your career. How you think affects all your relationships, romantic, your parent-child relationships, child-parent relationships, your sibling relationships, your relationships with friends. It affects every last thing in your life, how you think. So if we're talking about dreams and your identity, you literally can't do what you need to do if you don't first believe it. And that's honestly what happens. Have y'all ever heard or talked to somebody who say, hey, you know, I'm this and I'm that, and they trying to like sell you so hard at what they are? And you like, okay. And it almost like you kind of wonder why it's coming off super strong. And what you start to see is if you let somebody talk enough, you'll start to see that they're trying to convince you, and not just convince you, but they're literally trying to convince themselves that they're that person. They're trying to convince themselves that they are that person. And that's oftentimes when somebody has an idea of what they think they are, but they're not seated in it, right? And that's why Pat and Jason, that's both of what you said was important and true about the idea that you can't allow somebody to dictate who you are and how you move, but also you have to first believe it yourself and get seated deep enough in that thing so that nobody should be able to tell you about you. How? Listen, if I'm a scholar, I always tell people the best investment you can make in yourself is to get to know you. The best investment you can make in yourself is getting to know yourself. Okay, y'all know I talk about self-care and all that stuff too, but also learning yourself. We talk about self-awareness, about being willing to look in the mirror, but like for real, you need to know who you are. What do you stand for? What's your moral set? What do you believe in? What are your dreams? What are your fears? And if you start to tell me you don't have any fears, I know you don't really know you, because everybody has fears. Whether you want to have them or not, we all have some fear. It could even, I have a fear. I have a fear that if something happens to my son and I'm not around, I won't be able to protect him. I have a fear that, you know, that I might be too far from my parents, or something happens, somebody calls and I'm not able to drive right there. Those are things, I mean, I'm learning how to get over those fears because I can't control everything, but those are like legitimate things that I fear. You know, when I'm driving in the car, I used to have especially when it's bad weather, I had a fear that if, you know, I slide the wrong way, I'm gonna turn in a circle. And, you know, we all have some fear, whether how big or silly or small or whatever, it's real. But the biggest investment you can make in yourself is getting to know you. I'm telling you, it's life-changing. Most people walk around not knowing who they are and not really knowing what they stand for and not really having anything they stand for and going for the okie doke and literally just not being able to interact in an authentic way, not because they don't want to, but because they don't even know who they authentically are. Like if somebody asks you, if they sat down with you today and said, who are you? What do you stand for? If you were to die today and I had to write an essay about you or make a biopic about you, what would we talk about? And if you can't even begin to start to think about what that would look like, then you have an identity issue. And it's okay. That's what I kept saying with the pandemic. It's a lot of people who literally are moving around this earth and not knowing who they are. And it's dangerous. You wonder why crime and all these horrible things happen to people. It's not because people are just innately bad. I don't believe that. I believe that a lot of it's nature versus nurture. You know, I don't want to get into all of that right now. Traumatic situations have happened to people that's caused them to go. There's a lot of different reasons with all that. But the reality is, if you don't know who you are, you have a lot of idle time. And if you don't know what your purpose is, if you don't know what your passion is, if you don't know why you are here, there are people in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s that still will tell you, I have no idea why I'm here. And I know that has to be super frustrating, because I had that crisis I just came out that crisis a couple of years ago. Literally, I think I figured out at the end of 2019, started to realize why I was here. But even then, um, and it was a completely lot of mine was some other stuff too, as far as business is linked. But even so, I know personally what it feels like to not know. To know that you have and it's one thing to like say, I don't know what my purpose is yet or what my passion is yet. It's a whole nother thing to say, I don't know why I'm here. Because if you don't know why you're here, you're gonna get caught up in a lot of mess. You're gonna either end up doing things that you don't want to do, things that you don't really subscribe to, or let's go a step further, you'll end up doing something just to be doing it. And you'll look back and say, someone will say, like, why did you make that choice? Why did you do that? And you literally have no answer. So to everybody asking me, okay, Paris, you had this conversation. Okay, so I'm one of the people. I don't know why I'm here. I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know, I just wake up every day and go to work. I'm just trying to survive. It's hard out here. I'm just literally trying to figure it out day by day. What I say is, there's nothing wrong with being there for a moment. But if you are stuck, there comes a point where you have to kind of start doing the work. And that's not an indictment. This is more so saying, hey, there's a way to get out of it. And in order to get out of it, there has to be, like what I say, you can't do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. So if you don't want to be where you are at, then now it's time for some action. So what do I suggest? Okay, I'm glad that you asked me. So one of the first things I do, I think you need to invest in a journal, and not something that's fancy. Is that you go to Dollar Tree, go get you something, one of the little books. I have me a ton of them, and I hate to write. I hate to say, I know y'all tell me don't say word curses, but I got someone who gave me this nice one recently. But you need to start writing things down. You need to write down the things that you like to do. You need to write down the things you used to like to do. Because sometimes when traumatic things happen in our life, when life happens and we get in a rut, we forget what we love to do. We forget what we like to do. What if you used to bake and you stopped when your mother passed away and you just never picked it up again? What if that was one thing that made you happy? What if, it was you used to like to dance and, that was something that really made you happy until you had a really bad breakup with somebody that you used to go dancing with, and now you don't want to do it anymore, but you've now remembered that it used to make you so happy. What if you used to like to write? Like, what if writing was therapeutic for you, but then one day when you lost your job, you just got to the point where you got so depressed you just never picked it back up again? Those all are real things, What if you like to work out? Like, you really, really like to work out, but you lost custody of your child, and now you just feel like, what's the point? What's the point? Listen, life happens and it sucks, and you can't control most of it. It really does. And I'm not trying to say to glide over that. You really do need to deal with those moments of trauma and those traumatic moments and points. But what I will say is, once you start to deal with it, or if you have dealt with it, there's often residual effects that are happening in you that you don't even realize it. Because again, same thing like with Corona. We in the house, you sitting here every day, you don't realize you get Corona 15. You know why? Because you in the house, you're not moving around as much, probably eating a little bit more comfort food, don't even realize it, and you're not putting on fancy clothes, so you don't really have that type of measuring tool that you would normally have in putting your regular clothes on. So the first time you put some regular clothes on, you're like, oh, wait a minute, what happened? What happened? And that's the same thing what happens where you're stuck. When you're stuck, you don't know you're stuck. You don't realize that you're stuck. Some people are aware, most people do not. Most people are not aware because they are not even that self-aware. They're not looking at themselves for those type of realizations. So again, a journal I think is really necessary, so you can start writing things down. Write your likes, what things you used to love to do. You want to start getting like lighting a spark in your brain about things that you enjoyed. And then even write down some things that you would like to learn or you always wanted to do. Like start to reactivate those thoughts because you want to get to a point where you can say, well, you know what? I have some, I really don't do much these days, but I could probably take a free class online or I can go on YouTube and figure out how to do this. You might really, that maybe when you wanted to do it, the accessibility wasn't there, or maybe you had thought you had to go to school for it. But there's so many different ways to do things nowadays. You can learn a whole like 30 businesses off of YouTube alone and nothing else. Literally, you can make 30 whole skill sets off of YouTube if you really wanted to, if your passion was there. But and maybe you didn't realize that. Maybe you don't even know who's around you. Maybe you don't even get the resources that's available to you. Maybe you don't even know that there's somebody that at one point I used to want to be somebody that did talk show. And I used to say, I could never do that. I'm not going to broadcast journalist school. Corona happens. I started doing this live to help people out. And then now I do this twice a week. And literally it's opened up a whole nother thing. I never did it with that intent, but you know what I'm saying? I was my own glass ceiling. I literally built a box around what I could do. And so I'm asking you to revisit you, invest in you, invest in the energy in figuring out who you are. We're willing to invest in everything else. Y'all heard about that GameStop. Y'all was so happy to jump into that stock thing without really knowing about it. You just didn't want to miss out on something. Y'all when y'all hit a lottery, the Powerball is gone. Y'all run over to the gas station. No shade. I'm just saying, y'all try to go get that thing so you see if you can get, whatever it is that you can, luckily get. If you hear, somebody bust open an armor truck, you're gonna run yourself out there, even in this 0-degree weather, to see if you can hurry up and get something. And while that's fine and dandy, I want us to be so much more intentional about getting to know ourselves, so that you don't have to rely on one in a million type of circumstances to get you out of something. I want you instead to be intentional, to get to know who you are, to get to work on identity stuff so you can lament who you are, why you're here, what legacy you want to leave, what's your purpose, what's your passions, what's your likes, what's your dislikes, what's your moral compass, and figure out who you are as a woman or a man, right? Figure out who you want to be versus who you are. Because a lot of times, if we're honest, we have these desired things. Sometimes you can look at yourself, yeah, I'm a good person, I'm this and that. And then you have to be honest and start to look at yourself as what you're currently doing. And there's nothing wrong with saying, okay, I'm currently this, but I want to be that. But start to make a plan, being intentional. And then also let's stop with the negative talk. Stop telling yourself, I am who I am. This is just who I am. This is just my personality. I've been like this. This is what my daddy was. This is how every man in my family is. Or I'm a Leo. Or I'm a Virgo. Or I'm a Sag. This is just how my sign is. This is how we roll. This is what we do. Man, cut it out. Cut it out. Cut it out. You are so much more than whatever month you were born in. You're so much more than what your last name is, whoever you were raised by. No shade to them, but you're still your own person. And if you are being dysfunctional, or if you're operating in a toxic way, or if you're just not doing anything, it's time to cut that generational curse. It's time to, stop doing something just because you see that's how other people have done it, or you need to stop doing things. And so when people tell you that you have a bad temper, that's just how I am. That's just how I move. You shouldn't cross me the wrong way. That's not cute. If you over 21, it's not cute. It wasn't cute under 21. Let's be real clear. But you have to take some ownership for that. If you still talking out here, talk about it the wrong, or if the person step on my foot the wrong way, I'm going off. If you still doing that right now, you have no control of yourself. You have no control of your emotions. You have no control, and you are trying to attribute that to your personality, and it's not part of your personality. It's literally you just accepting that this is how you are and thinking that you can't change it. And I'm here to tell you the great news. You can change it. You absolutely can change it. You absolutely can change it if you put the work in. You're absolutely possible to change it if you are willing to look and take a look at yourself and look and dig in to the reasons why maybe that's built into you. You have anger issues. How about we don't just believe that's just how you are, and maybe we start to dig in and see why you have those anger issues. Does it have anything to do with the fact your dad left when you were 10? Does it have anything to do with that your mom wasn't there, and she didn't really talk to you and she really wasn't as nurturing as you want? What is it? And this is not to blame your parents. This is just to say, what is the reason? You're not just angry just to be angry. There's something under that. You can change it. You can change all of it. You literally can. If you want a better job, I promise to God you can have one. Y'all hear I said promise? I promise you can have a better job if you take the steps to apply yourself to and put yourself on a plan. You can get where you want to. If you want to lose weight, you absolutely can do it if you make a plan. If you want to be more emotionally sound, if you want to be more mentally stable, if you want to be somebody that doesn't let your emotions lead you, believe more logic, you can be that too by making a plan. Yeah, you can. All of it. It's all possible. Don't let anybody tell you it's not. If you want to be somebody that's more spiritually seated or more financially stable, you can do all of that with a plan. So I hope that this has helped a little bit. I definitely wanted to address this because, y'all know, you hear a lot of people say, I'm just here so I'll get fired. Man, I'm just here day by day. It is what it is. I'm just living this life. And, we take it as just something that's being said. But what happens when you watch somebody that's living a life that's not worth anything? And I mean, not saying that they're not worth being alive, but they're not doing anything to contribute to the betterment of themselves or to the world. What then? That's when we have to say, okay, this is not okay. And let's and look at ourselves and say, what can I do to submit my identity better? So let me see. I got a couple other things here. Jason, you said applying yourself. Yes, application is always necessary. You can dream and say all the things you want to, but if you're not applying the things that you're saying and taking the plan and executing it, you're not going to get anything done. Absolutely. Application is so necessary once you learn what you're learning. Demetrius, you said you're so right. Dreams were meant to come true. Believe in yourself and embrace your energy. Absolutely, Demetrius. I think that people have, like I told somebody, I was 20 when my dreams died. The dreamer in me died. And I didn't know that. And I just realized this a few months ago. Literally. I just realized that I chose, my circumstances in life and said, hey, dreams are for kids. I don't have time for that. I gotta be, this and that. And I killed the dreamer, but I didn't realize that it's nothing wrong with being a dreamer as long as you put it in the right place at the right time, right? When you're in a surviving season, you might not have the luxury of dreaming as much. In my opinion, I didn't feel like I had it, right? Now that I'm thinking, maybe I could have let that dreamer push me into something else. But at the time, I just wanted to make a stable situation for my child. So for me, I didn't feel like I had the luxury to be a dreamer. But instead of me literally killing that dreamer, I should have just maybe said, okay, let's put it on the back burner and let's revisit once I get stable. And I got stable a long time ago, but I never picked the dreamer back up. So yeah, it's important. And and you said to come through to believe yourself and embrace your energy. Absolutely. And that's the thing about it. Like, you honestly are only going to go as far as you believe you're going to go. So it all starts here. It all starts in, recreating that thing. And sometimes we get lost, y'all. Stuff happens, life happens, and we get off of this path, this like childlike path where we believe that anything can happen. And we believe you could do all these wonderful things. And I'm just here to try to awaken that person in you again. You know, Jason said you're always just waver in life. Yeah. Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah, you don't want to just be stuck and just kind of sitting there and just not moving. You don't want you want to move forward. I believe there's no such thing as standing still. I believe the world is constantly moving. So if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards. That's what I believe. Okay. And then Pat, you said my son thought I was too old to have dreams when I told him. He was surprised. Wow. And you know, ageism is a real thing and we don't even realize it and we don't talk about it enough. I'm gonna talk about that one day, Mama Pat. But like literally, there's no such thing as being too old to have dreams. As long as you are breathing, there's something like, whether you believe in God or not, you are left on this earth. You're here not just to consume more air. You're here for a reason. If you're here another day, there's another opportunity for you to impact somebody's life or to do something that you wanted to do or to impact the world and leave a legacy. There's another chance. There's no such thing as too old. There's some people that only live to their 8 years old. And there's some people live to their 98. And I know some people that at 8 years old, they had such more of an impact than the person that was 98 because the person that was 98 wasn't doing anything with their life. So it has nothing to do. You have so much time to figure out what it is, and it's never too late. I was so inspired. I saw the other day somebody was 90 years old going to get their bachelor's. And somebody, why would they do that? And they said, it's always something I wanted to do. And I told myself I was going to do it. Absolutely. You owe it to yourself to do that. You owe it to yourself to go after every dream. And that person ended up in the paper. And I know they probably thought it was no big deal, but they end up on this news because it was just such an inspiring story. You don't know who's watching you. You don't know who's looking to see what you're doing and how you're doing it and how it's going to help them. You don't know what your story is doing for the next person. So I challenge you guys to really start living. You don't know what little kid is looking up to you down the street. You don't understand that bro, when you walk past him, he like, hey, what up, bro? You don't realize that he's waiting to see how you move. He's watching how you move. You don't know. He might be wanting to commit suicide, but you talking to him every day or saying something encouraging to him, you're the thing that's helping him move a little bit faster or better. You might not know that little nephew in your family. Wait, he's so excited when he see you. And you literally somebody he looks up to and he never told you that. I'm just saying you don't know your power. You don't know how important you are. You don't know how needed you are. And I'm talking to the men particularly. You have no idea how needed you are in this earth. I don't care who told you you weren't worth it. I don't care who undermined you. I don't care who made you feel less than. I don't care who told you you'll never amount to nothing. I don't care who told you it was just, you're going to be just like your daddy. You're never going to amount to anything or you were dumb. Wipe all that out. New slate. You're needed. If you're here, you're needed. If you survive something, you survive for a reason. You're needed. So it's time to step up and figure it out, right? So I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation. Thank you for coming on here and talking with me, y'all. I think we had a good conversation today. I appreciate, I had a few first timers today. I really appreciate y'all coming through and checking me out. That is awesome. I hope y'all enjoyed it, got something from it. Please share this. Please share it on your post. On your timeline also, or share it, like tag somebody in it. If you just now coming on, we're ending it now. So, catch the replay. And if you're catching the replay, go ahead and type replay in there so I can know that you're watching it. But I'm so appreciative that y'all came and y'all rapped with me today. I think these are important conversations. You know how I feel like one conversation can change the whole trajectory of your life. So that's what we're here for. This is Jason said before, all that courage should take place. Absolutely. And this courage is necessary. All of it. Every day. So I'm going to end with this. Y'all know what I'm going to say. Everybody who's normally here, you know what I'm going to say. You are enough. And I know guys think, oh my God, here we go with the girl stuff. No, let me hear you. You are enough to invest in. Y'all invest in stocks. You invest in somebody else's business. You invest in relationships. Now I'm here to tell you, you are enough to invest in yourself. You're worth it. You are so worth it. You're so lovable. And if nobody else tells you that, I'm here to tell you. until you start believing it. So do the work. Do the work, y'all. Do the work. That's what I'm here to tell y'all. So like I said, we're still in this Man's Mental Health Month. I'm so excited about it. I'm excited with what's been happening. It's been awesome. Don't miss Thursday. We have Justin DeBose coming on. It's going to be a great conversation. We're talking about how we have set the stage for men not believing that they can share or feeling comfortable to share, and what that really means and what that looks like. It's gonna be a heavy conversation. Y'all men come, y'all women come. I'm trying to tell y'all it's gonna be a heavy hitter. You don't want to miss it. Invite people, invite every man you know, invite every woman you know, share it on your page, please. It's gonna be a great conversation. So I love you all. Y'all have a good rest of your night. Let be productive or get some rest, however it handles out. Hey mom, love you. I know you know I'm getting to the end of it now. So I love y'all. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye. Thursday.